So at the behest of the chair, I will call this meeting of the Sustainable Greenfield Implementation Committee to order. As said, the meeting is being recorded. If anyone else is recording the meeting, need to inform the chair. And then we'll go to introductions. And I'll start and go around the table and then go to the screen. My name is George Tolumsis, and I'm the planning board rep on this committee. I'm the vice chair of the committee, and per the delegation of the chair, I facilitate the meeting minutes. I mean, the meetings. I'm looking at minutes. You want to go next?
Yes, Marla Warner, Department of Public Works Director, member of the committee.
Eric Ford, Director of Planning and Development, member of the committee.
Take this up for a minute. I'm just getting over the flu. My name is Francoise Hatt, and I'm about to be appointed to this committee.
Wonderful.
I'm John Garrett. I'm on the city council, and this is a new committee for me to be on as well.
And you're the city council rep. So it's good.
I am Amy Kaling. I'm the Director of Community and Economic Development, and I am not on the committee, but an enthusiastic vice.
I'm Mary Chickman. I'm the new chair, and I'm a member of the public.
Nancy Hazard, member at large.
And Greta?
Hello, does that leave me? I'm Greta Schwachman, Food Service Director, Youth Representative. I'll get it one of these years. Coming to you from my office.
Great, thank you. All right, and we did hear that Hannah wouldn't be able to make it. I don't know. And as we mentioned, Carol Collins has apparently been
Coming back.
is coming back as the Director of Energy and Sustainability, and would be an automatic member of this committee as well, but won't be here till next month. So, okay, the next agenda item is approval of the February meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Any discussion? So done.
That's it.
Hearing no discussion. All committee members in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Abstained.
Okay, thank you. You're taking the minutes for the moment, right?
For the moment, anyway.
For the moment, okay. And apropos of that, our next agenda item is nomination of an SGIC clerk. That is an officer role we don't have filled at this point. So the floor is open for self or other nominations. Nominations per Robert's rules don't need to be seconded. Are there any self or other nominations?
Would anyone like to hear what the responsibilities are? So the responsibilities of the clerk could be flexible, but essentially it would be taking the meeting minutes, helping me and making sure that the agenda gets posted appropriately. And yeah, I think that's about it, really, just taking care of any of that clerical type things. Yeah.
One thing I wondered, just with what we were dealing with just now, would it fall under the clerk to be doing managing of the hybrid, since all our meetings will be hybrid, managing the Zoom aspect?
I mean, since we're having a conversation about it, I would be actually fine, since George is, he's basically facilitating the meetings at my request. And I don't actually enjoy, weirdly enough, taking minutes. I don't mind doing that. So I would be open if somebody else wanted to be the clerk and would just make sure that we, are connected to Zoom, and that if we need to share a screen, they have the appropriate documents to share to the screen and things like that. So I'd be open to having a different setup. It would just be nice to have somebody in the clerk position. So.
Fortunately, that's not me.
Yeah.
Not good skills in those areas.
I mean, I'd be willing to be the clerk if it has nothing to do with meeting minutes. Saying EBA and I don't want to do meeting minutes. But if it's excluded meeting minutes, then I could do the rest of what you said.
Okay, so you could could you have a laptop here? So if we needed to share something, you'd have it on your laptop and you could share, because that's the other problem we ran into last time. I couldn't take notes, and thankfully Amy took notes.
Oh, I see, like a laptop, and then we can connect it to that machine and then share stuff, and yeah, I have a laptop, I could bring it every time for every meeting.
Okay,
Yeah.
Would be great.
so I nominate Eric.
All right. Are there any other nominations for clerk? Greta, we haven't heard from you, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I would be open to doing it. I don't really even carry a laptop with me here. I'm not the most tech savvy. I would do it. I would do it if no one else would do it.
Thank you.
Um,
I was kind of teasing you. I just wanted to include you in the conversation. Come on.
I would do it, but the issue with me is if I can't do it 100%, which is a big possibility at times, then I wouldn't want to fail the committee either.
Well, it sounds like we do have a nomination and someone who's willing to do it under the arrangement.
Okay,
you
so
guys
then
talked
I'll
about.
take minutes.
All right.
I'm fine with that.
So,
Thank you.
do we need to vote for the clerk technically, or can we just say by acclamation, we accept Eric as clerk?
That's what I think, yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Mary. We can- Okay, the next item on the agenda is public comment. I see we have someone on the Zoom for the public.
It's Patty.
And so just inviting you, oh, it's unmuted, good.
Oh, hi.
Hey there.
I am just looking forward to hearing, hopefully, any updates about the master plan update. But no
Yeah.
comments so far.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so that moves us on to item 6. We're zooming along here, no pun intended. The master plan update and next steps. Mary, did you want to?
Yeah, and I would just like to suggest that we might end up combining the master plan update and next steps with the focus for 2024, because I feel like those are all part of that stew of trying to, figure out what we're doing here, essentially. I feel like I can better lead the group if I have a clearer idea of why we're here, what we want to do going forward. And, I think an impetus for having this conversation is the fact that we're in the process of updating these 2 chapters, the land use chapter and the natural, historic and cultural resource chapter. And so I would suggest we just have kind of an open discussion about what that means for our group. For instance, does it mean that we focus on those chapters in this next year? Does it mean that we continue doing what we were doing? I would just like to hear, really, when I'm asking this question, I'm thinking also, especially of city employees and the best use of your time in this meeting, how we can best support you. So it's not just another meeting to come to, but something that can be valuable to you as well, so.
I would say that I can give a quick update on the master plan update and the second thing, focus for 2024. So the student team is really moving along pretty well. The project will be finished by the end of May. Actually by end of April, and the deliverables will have, I think, in May. Or do you remember if that is it May for the?
I think it's end of April.
It's 26th of April, but
Okay, so 26th of April. So I'm thinking that, and they did a great job, and hopefully this committee will review all those recommendations and the update to the chapters. But I think that it will need additional work before being formally adopted by the city and the planning board. So I think the first couple of months of this group could be focused on updating those chapters, finishing the update of those 2 chapters ourselves to get them to the point of adoption.
I'll call on myself. I would echo that because I think this is really important and quality work, and it's very much about what this committee is all about. And I know, unfortunately, the thing that came up was disseminated yesterday. I haven't had a chance to look through that. It deserves, close scrutiny. But I would think taking a couple of meetings to primarily focus on that and try to adjust and fine tune based on the great work that's been done so far makes sense. So as far as the first chunk of our year, so to speak, I would think that. Anybody else, John?
So I have a question just generally about the scope of the committee. So the implementation part in particular, I'm interested in. So there's this is a plan, that has, I've read through some of the updates and I not read all 300 so odd pages of the other one, full plan. Although I love the graphic design and like the fact that it's a planning document and thinking about what we're doing as a city is wonderful. The implementation piece, I guess I'm curious about the mechanics of that. So this is, George, you've mentioned to me that this is a planning board document. I just heard you say that as well. Is the idea, so we update these two chapters. The planning board, puts their stamp of approval on it. I'm assuming you vote to accept it. Is that right? Yeah. And then how does it, what's the process? Do you guys like decide we're going to make a planning board recommendation based on chapter X, of the land use chapter of the master plan? And then that trickles up to the city council after, and that's basically the process. So this is effectively like a guideline for the planning board to make changes that then would have to work their way through the rest of the political process, basically. Is that the idea?
I would say not exactly. It's a planning board document. This committee has been formed right after this original plan was approved to implement it. What does that mean? We've been having that discussion for 10 years. And various forms of answers to that. And it's been a fluid process. And I think what Mary is asking us also to think of, okay, this year, how are we going to implement? And what does that mean? But I'll let other people speak to it. And Nancy's also been on this for the 10 years and Marlo for a long time.
But could you say why you said not exactly? Could you clarify and why you answered not exactly?
Oh, not exactly that it's then the planning board reviews this plan and generates things.
Okay.
The planning board approves it because it's an overriding planning document.
Okay.
And there are components in it that are, because if you look at the implementation chapter, there are, designated, can't remember what the word is, but
Responsible parties.
thank you very much. That is the word. And that sometimes that might be the planning board or the planning department or DPW or, various entities. So then that would be something the planning board would focus on as far as our agenda. But there are other things that are in other places. And there are some things, and this is one thing we've kind of talked about over the years, is don't seem to have a home.
Okay.
And so those are sometimes the ones we focus on to say, okay, how can we trigger something to happen with this or bring together entities who might not be coordinated at this point or something like that.
Okay.
So it's a real mix of approaches and shifting our focus from time to time, and reviewing chapters and updating things that have been accomplished with the master plan and stuff. So like I said, it's a very complex, dense document that has a lot of value, but it's also how do you get a handle on it?
Right. And part of what excites me about this committee is that the word implementation is in there. It's like very easy to plan and have great ideas, but unless they're happening, that doesn't have an impact on people, And so like, I love that there is a chapter on implementation and I will read that. So thank you.
And I'll just, the last thing, say that we've gotten a lot of feedback that this is pretty distinct, that we have had such an active committee since since the approval of the plan, so that it's not just sitting on a shelf.
Right. That's always
As the cliche goes.
right. No, it happens a lot, unfortunately.
Anybody else?
My little phrase about how I see us is that we're the watchdog. That it happens. And that's the simple way of putting it. Yours was a wonderful, detailed explanation of how it comes about. And one of the things that I'm personally interested in, which we have done well from time to time and not well at other times, is continuing to engage people in the process. So community engagement, if you want to call it that. And we've had some really good meetings where, we've had, gotten a lot of people together around a particular topic and sort of, so we're constantly getting feedback from people and keeping those people moving forward. Which might lead me into a comment about this year, but I'll hold that for other people to.
I think it's fine to do it.
Mary's blending those together.
Yeah.
Who else wants to add about Eric, you were one of the key people, you and I, creating this, because you had the experience of working in another city where they had an implementation committee. And then we kind of
Yeah, I can just in case people don't know around the table about Massachusetts compared to other areas of the country, it's in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, master plans are only advisory documents. In much of the country, it is more than, it's a regulatory tool. On Cape Cod, it's a regulatory tool. That's the only one in the
Oh,
Massachusetts.
interesting.
Cape Cod Commission, they have the authority of review for developments of regional impact. So that's why we formed an implementation committee, because it's not like the rest of the country where it has power. You know, it's just a document that would sit there, and if we didn't have a committee, you know, it'd just be if somebody was bored and they felt like looking at the plan, that's the only time it would be reviewed. So the committee is a great idea, and I learned it from the town of Mashpee when I was there, and that was one of the first implementation committees ever formed in the state. And there's still not that many of them throughout the entire Commonwealth out of 351 communities. So it's a great idea to have this implementation committee, and it's unique. More towns and cities are starting to do it. But the last statement I want to make is planners have been trying to change this enabling state statutes at the state level for 20, 30 years. One of those amendments would be to give power to master plans, just like the rest of the country.
Can you speak a little bit?
Well, I was gonna say, another piece of that, and which Mary is the composition of this committee is, as far as Greenfield is concerned, very unique. I don't know about those other towns that have implementation committees, but the idea of having staff people as well as the general public people and representation with it, so that there is smooth communication, yeah, but, and that we can support staff people in what you all need to do. So, and that we've all agreed to do, I must say. So I've really enjoyed and appreciated that ability to have that kind of discussion that doesn't happen in other committees and that I've noticed in Greenfield.
So just a question for Eric. You mentioned that Cape has, the master plan there has a legal authority, and is that the entire peninsula? Like, is there like a commission that sits on top? Is it county government?
Yeah, so Cape Cod Commission is the county, Barnstable County, the Cape Cod, the entire Cape Cod,
Yeah.
16 communities. And they have they're the only regional agency that has regulatory authority.
And were they granted that by the legislature? Or was it like an act of legislature?
Yes, it was an act of Massachusetts legislature because of the sole source aquifer on Cape Cod and the issues there involved.
Thank you so much.
I'm calling myself again. I don't remember in all these years, Nancy, using the term watchdog, but I like it. I also think it, as you were saying about the public events, part of our role has been to keep the master plan alive and raise the profile. So, you know, there had been such good public involvement with its developments, and to, you know, keep reminding people it exists. And I know it's really gotten integrated, and I can't say we take credit for that, but it's really gotten integrated into departments, and a lot of council discussions would involve reference to the master plan.
It's in the budget book that comes out every year.
Other,
And then we have people like George who remember the details of this master plan, which just blows me away.
I haven't had cause to throw this away yet, so I don't memorize all of it. Other people, either about the update or about the focus for this coming year?
I just have a comment. I think this committee is important to me for many purposes, like when I'm putting capital together and projects and everything else, being part of this committee and everything we talk about. A lot of times I think about, I'll give an example, is when I needed to replace the wall down the street here. It triggered Carol and I talking about that plan was designed by a Conway Street School about changing the parking and everything. I'm like, well, we're going to tear that wall up and we're going to do the wall in. Let's try and go after that. And, you know, as we know, that all fits parts of the master plan. So it triggered Carol and I working together, then Carol getting the grant, and then the whole thing happened. So I mean, if I wasn't on this committee, it may not have made it to me or whatever. I would have replaced a wall, and at the last second, it would have been, well, I could have done the wall differently if I knew we were going to go with that plan. So it triggers me to think along the lines when I'm doing a project, what other effects and how does it complete or something under this plan.
Less siloing.
Yes.
Yeah, nice.
Nice.
And first of all, feel free, by the way, to participate in the discussion if you wish. I didn't want you to
And
do it.
Amy, everybody, really.
And see Patty, yeah. Yes, Patty, I see your electronic hand. Please.
Thank you. I just want to, I want to know, is this plan available for the public to see yet?
You talking about the original master plan?
The update.
That's a good question. The original master plan is on the website.
Yes.
But the update is still in draft form. So I'm not sure what the status of it.
Yeah, I would say that we're not going to release these two updated chapters until this committee has completed them and it's been adopted by the planner.
Or at least we have the piece from the Conway people.
Yeah, at least the Conway. Then that could be released,
that-
and then it would say we could have an announcement that we're working to finalize.
Mhm.
It's labeled as a draft.
Yeah, we could release the draft from once the Conway school is completed, April 26th.
Great.
Oh, okay.
So, and just to be clear, Patty, so the intention is that you probably heard us say already that we'll continue to work to make sure that the recommendations are complete before the planning board takes it up. And also that there'll be then additional opportunities for you and other members of the public to participate in making sure those implementation items are crafted adequately.
That's perfect. That's what I was hoping. Thanks so much.
Thank you. So there was a suggestion of spending a couple months or so focused on this in particular, this update. You're wondering about the rest of 2024 as well. Yes.
Well, I'll go back to community engagement. So, yeah, I would hope that after this is published, that there will be some community engagement that will be part of the process of moving it forward. The other topic that has been on my mind has been energy-related stuff for two reasons. Just before Carol left her position, so I can't remember the exact date, but FERCog published a report on energy use in the city. And I've been sort of waiting for there to be a new person in that job to come and talk to this committee about that report. And the other aspect of that is that the Director of Energy Sustainability, the job description was expanded just as Carol left. I mean, the new job that was advertised, there were some additions to it. And the biggest change is that that the Green Communities money can be spent on community work, not just municipal work. And that's something that the city was awarded by the Green Communities people because the municipal aspect of their work was so incredibly successful that you know, the need to put all of that money into municipal work is not there so much anymore. So we now have the right to spend it on the community at large, which I'm really excited about. It takes me back to the energy audit that we did in 2008 and how municipal energy use is 2% of all the energy that we use in Greenfield. So if we're going to actually make any kind of an impact on climate mitigation and that type of thing, is the rest of the city needs to be more engaged than it has been. And Greenfield's sort of been raising, you know, waving that flag for a long time and holding workshops around where to find money to upgrade your home or, you know, that type of thing, or the Solarize program, which the city took a lead on, putting PV on people's homes. So that would be another topic that I think is ripe for community engagement and for this committee to spend some energy on in the coming, you know, next 12 months or whatever.
And I'll call myself about this because I think that would be, with that development you're talking about and with Carol's return, I think that would be a nice, because the more we can, you know, bite off, you know, reasonable chunks of this, the better. And so that might be a period where we just focus on that chapter. So that would be a suggestion to dovetail with yours.
We'll certainly work with the energy and, sustainability department
Mhm.
in some way, I mean, which is unclear at the moment, but hopefully it will become clear when Carol's back.
I'll just add also that we didn't update the energy chapter this time around, but there was a focus on energy, and that was one of the top priorities of people who attended the community meetings. So that also supports, I mean, there's lots of priorities, but it supports that being one of the priorities. So I could imagine, looking back at the existing chapter, energy chapter, and thinking about how those new recommendations tie in with that. And I think sort of related logistically, one of the things I'd like to see us do is how do we keep track of these new things as they bubble up? I mean, at some point we'll update that energy chapter, we'll update the housing or whatever. And what's our process for capturing projects or ideas so that, we're not starting from zero when we start whatever that next chapter update is. So maybe we can figure that out as well. If there's a repository, if there's a Google Doc, whatever it is, to figure out how to keep track of those things.
The implementation table we've been going over for several months, that has recommendations relative to energy, sustainability issues, and we could continue to go over those just on that topic. Because they already exist. We just need to review them.
And are you suggesting we would use that also as a place to put new ones?
Yes.
That would be kind of be a working document. And I have a burning question related to that, which is that when I came on, I was confused by the process that was happening around some document we were reviewing. And at one point, it seemed as though it was said that it wasn't action items, it was actually just people's ideas of what we should work on. Do you know what I'm talking about? That
I do, yes.
table.
Yeah, I do.
So that was confusing to me, how that fit into the whole picture and why the committee started going down that route instead of sticking with the recommendations. Does
Oh, I
anybody,
see what you're
does
talking
anybody
about.
know?
I don't, because I recall the invitation table had stuff that was from the master plan,
Yes.
but then had some new ideas also.
I see.
Right.
And where those new ideas came from, I don't know.
I think, are you referring to the sort of brain dump that we all had into
Yeah.
Yes.
another table?
He's got it right there.
Waiting it for you.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Brain dump is the technical term.
I think
And
we
that was-
did meet though and talk about how everyone did kind of brain dump their ideas, but then we had a follow up where we said, what's the best thing that we can do as a committee to support other people who are following through on some of these things.
Mhm.
So I think there were actual action items generated that supported our goals. I don't know if that list
Yeah.
is somewhere.
Yeah, it was a collection of things from the master plan that individuals on the committee that bubble up to the top somehow. And it wasn't fully comprehensive, but it was just things that jumped out.
Yeah, we went down through, we reviewed inflow and infiltration that's being worked on. We kind of eliminated them out. And I think it was originally brought up so we could set our priorities going forward too. If I'm remembering correctly.
My experience,
To help us.
there's been resistance in using the existing implementation table.
Why do you say that?
Systems.
That's my experience.
Resistance.
It's too big, it's too overwhelming, people don't want to look at it. So they just kind of I'm really glad that you, Eric, brought it back in when we got to the land use stuff. So that's kind of why I think it happened.
This is the document we were just shown.
No,
Okay.
no, you're talking about the implementation chapter, right? Nancy?
I'm
Of the
talking
original
about there's
master
a
plan?
resistance to the implementation table that's in the back of the master
Right, the
plan.
original master plan.
But then about, 8 months ago or whatever, we started creating a brain dump
Right.
Excel spreadsheet, which instead of looking at the existing implementation table, we kind of started all over again and it's about what people were interested in.
And the implementation table includes responsible party, it includes relative cost, relative urgency. And so there's a lot there, but it's a very dense document, but yes, sir.
Yeah, I was just thinking that, I mean, that's what makes our plan unique. That extra chapter called the implementation chapter.
Nice.
Is it the best format? Is it? No, it's not. Is it user friendly? No, but it is the chapter that says
Mhm.
long-term, short-term, who the responsible party is, what the action item is.
Mhm.
That shouldn't be lost. We should be using that. Do folks want me to do the same for the other chapters like I did in land use, so we can go through every item and see what we think about it? Has it been implemented? Should it be implemented? I mean, starting from scratch is, you shouldn't do that. I mean.
That's why I'm glad I brought this up, because it's clear there's quite a bit of, I don't know, confusion about what that was. And
Mhm.
so it's not just me, and I'm just sort of curious about how we can get back to a sort of an agreement on what we're using, right? Because we need to know what document we're working off of for the original plan. And then somehow we'll have to figure out how to pull in the chapter updates as well. So it's only going to get more, hopefully not more complicated, but there'll be more things that we're pulling in. So
Let me just double check. Patty, is your virtual hand still up or up again?
Oh, sorry.
No, that's
it's not
okay.
up.
I didn't want to miss you if you had something new to say. The other thing we've had from a cumulative point of view is some tables of things that have been accomplished. And there's been more than one format. I know there was one that was more of a top line summary that was used at a public event.
It was focusing on the downtown event. That was
Yes,
created for
yes,
that. It's a
yes.
one pager.
But we've had more complex documents, and I'm not necessarily tracking these documents myself, but right, we've had like a spreadsheet of things that have been accomplished, but I'm not sure where that resides.
No,
No?
not
Oh,
really.
okay.
Again, a couple of us worked on a couple of chapters. Again, it
Yeah.
was resistance. And we stopped doing it.
okay.
Yes.
Would it be better and would it erase or eliminate some of the resistance if I did the same thing I did for land use and natural resources chapters? So what I did was this implementation table is long. It's got so many columns. You can do at least 2/3 of those and you can still, okay, you still have the important stuff. Responsible party, what the action is, and get rid of the other stuff so that people aren't overwhelmed and not want to deal with it. I mean, we should be using what the master plan says to do. The update will have new ideas, new action items. But we should be using that implementation.
Yes.
Can you say what you would hide? I don't remember what all are some of those columns that are kind of that muddy, just trying
You
to.
know, some of them had like long-term, short-term. I mean, those are good things to have too on there. And then some of them had potential grant programs, which is important too, and some of them had let's see, even dollar amounts, potential dollar amounts. A lot of information. It was a big table, and I could see why it would scare people off, but.
Well, this is why I wonder if we do it, and I appreciate your offering to do that, but I wonder if that's something that if we say, okay, we're already focused on these two chapters, and we say subsequent to that, we're going to focus on energy, and we all just kind of go through that.
Yeah, just do.
Try to overcome any resistance. I hadn't been aware, I hadn't sensed that, to be honest, but I don't invalidate it, but you know, it's a challenging way to do it, but I wonder if we could commit to, because that is important and it can, generate ideas, or I think that was, we did do some updating of that. I know you and I worked on it from the point of view of planning. We went through a bunch of things in there a few years ago. So it can be a really helpful exercise. If we take it in reasonable chunks, I mean, it was the whole thing in one sitting, so.
Yeah, because when I did these two chapters for this Conway School project, I said whether it was done or not.
Mhm.
So we don't do every single thing. Instead, is it done? No. Is it still relevant? Yes. I mean, I think the whole committee could go over every single one and do that.
Yes.
So the phrase responsible parties come up a number of times.
Mhm.
How does one become informed that you are a responsible party? And I'm assuming that's part of the work of the committee, right? Like, so like, I imagine, DPW obviously will know because we're here, and so is there, so we're going to be updating these chapters. That sounds like that's the mission of 2024. You're taking the Conway Schools recommendations. Do we then reach out to say it's the, I don't know, rec department because we want to do more open space and invite them to one of our meetings? Is that basically the process?
Can
Okay.
be, yeah,
could
that's
be.
been part of it, yeah.
How has it happened in the past? Has it been that, or has it been sending an email to somebody being like, just so you know, you're the responsible party, congratulations? And say, and I know I'm being a little glib, but.
Yeah, well, I think we're careful not to be directive to any town entities.
Would you be interested in being responsible?
Well,
Well, just,
everybody that becomes a responsible party, I'm part of that. Wrecked all that, all open, and we do a lot of the work, so, in maintenance.
In many cases, it's obvious.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that.
Saying
yeah,
it's the
yeah.
DPW rec department.
Yeah. Because I work with rec all the time. Hey, we're not gonna be able to do that. We gotta figure a cost for contracted, not DPW, but we'll maintain it after or whatever the situation may be. So there's a lot of interface.
but sometimes the responsible, oh, I'm sorry.
No.
The responsible party has been a committee or commission that isn't currently active. So brought that up as.
Especially challenging.
Yeah, right. So what do you do about that? Do we contact the mayor? We've done that. We've brought that up to the mayor. Oh, is that going to be reformed or something like that? So that's another example.
I think this is relevant too, because I don't think that the Conway School is going to fill in those blanks for us on this update. I don't think that they had the capacity or really, the knowledge to fill those blanks in for us. So we're going to need to do that as part of when we review these updated, implementation or recommendations for those two chapters. That'll be part of our job, along with any other information we think we want to continue to capture, like, long and short term or funding sources or whatever we think is particularly important to this group. So that is something we're going to need to do.
Just, also, we will be looking at not just the recommendations, but the actual wording of the plan, the update itself. They could have missed something. So we'll be looking at graphics, pictures, everything, the whole thing they did. Some of it, the wording might be tweaked or they forgot to add something, or it's just not the recommendations. Just want to make that clear.
Mhm.
And along that same line, that's going to be somewhat tricky. We'll have to figure out how to do that as well, because they'll essentially be turning over to us what they consider their final work product, right? So we can't go back to them and say, oh, we need, we've been doing a lot of editing along the way. Don't get us wrong. It's not like we haven't looked at it. But, they're students and they were under a really compressed time period, and there's bound to be things that were missed or not as fleshed out as possible. So we'll have to decide what we're going to do about that.
Yes.
So I have a question. You say we did this, we will do that. Does this mean like at this meeting once a month, or do you have like subcommittees that work on things or?
We don't have standing subcommittees. We have had some working groups at times that have worked on things, but we don't have any that are on an ongoing basis.
In this particular case, the Conway
Oh, that's
School
it,
asked
yeah.
for a core team
Thank you.
from here. So Eric and Mary and myself and Jonah, who's not here today, the four of us, we've been meeting with them weekly.
Okay.
And it's been fascinating and time consuming.
I had a fun meeting with them for about an hour and a half too. They came and visited with me. So.
Okay, there you
And I
go.
mean, fun, it was fun. Talking DPW and, going down all these places where we weren't there for, but it was a good meeting. I thought it was pretty cool.
sure it was edifying for them as well.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be, I mean, they're producing a work product
Yes.
as student, for us. And we have every, have every right to adjust it or improve it or something like that. And that wouldn't be being critical of the
No, no,
student's effort
no,
or
not
anything
at
like
all.
that, but we're not beholden to stick with, the exact,
Exactly.
wording they
Yeah.
created or something like that.
I'm thinking more the actual document itself, like how do we, like when you're talking about public outreach, how do we present that document? You know what I mean? Like if we do end up making a lot of changes to it, then we've got the original Sustainable Greenfield, we've got this report that maybe we feel we still need to make more robust, and how do those things all come together? That's something I think about because I do a
We'll
lot
find
of,
out.
I do a lot of formatting and design and stuff, and I think about those things. So, if we want, part of our mission is doing public outreach. And so I think we do need to figure out how to get our arms around this, it's evident at this table that we, maybe not struggle, but we grapple with how to pull all this information together, even just internally. So.
Well, to Francois's point, we could, I assume, next month we'll focus on what we got, I think, yesterday, that their preliminary.
Yeah, we
report.
might even do that a little bit today. We might dip our toe in and
Sure.
start taking a look.
But I mean, some of us probably haven't had a chance to.
Correct.
To look it over. So, and then we could decide as a committee, for the chair to designate or people to volunteer for a working group to, do something between the monthly meetings, with direction from the committee, to adjust this in this direction. And then rather than wordsmith it, by 11 people, then, have a smaller group to, with clear direction from the larger group. Possible.
I think it's a good idea. I mean, we all have good brains and good ideas, but trying to deal with a document, around a table like this is really challenging.
Yeah, and it's not like we can, be doing it, Google Doc or whatever, because it all has to be, and
Right.
Which would actually include, I think, the subcommittee meetings. But
Say that again?
it would include the subcommittee meetings, I believe, so.
What would it include?
Maybe public
meeting.
posted and,
Yes.
Posted.
and, accessible. Hybrid.
Well, in terms of what we should focus on for 2024, I do like the idea that we have these fresh chapters and these fresh ideas. And I'd like to propose that that's part of what we focus on, are those two chapters. Not to the exclusion of others, but just because I think they're the most, up-to-date recommendations and such.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think, as Eric said, a couple, 3 months, I guess, just to get that refined and to the point we feel it's ready to go to the planning board.
Yeah. Last time the city council, they officially adopted it, I think they took a vote or something, or some type of resolution or something on the original master plan. And it's not required, only required planning board approval, but we'll probably do the same.
Be nice. Yeah, that makes sense. Get people to buy in because they've seen it.
Exactly.
Heard it.
Yeah, I think it was, I don't remember exactly, but I think it was an endorsement or something like that.
Yeah, some type of
And
endorsement.
it wasn't dependent upon a vote of the city council, but.
Hopefully we can generate lots of excitement about an open space committee and actually get one. That would be so exciting. I mean, that's when I say community outreach, that's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in people getting excited about where we're going, what we're doing.
So that came up just because the Open Space and Rec Committee it's been a recommendation now for a while that we have a standing Open Space and Recreation Committee, and we just haven't made that happen yet. So, and there's different ways you can do it. Doesn't have to be part of the charter or anything like that.
It does not have.
Does not. That's my understanding.
No, it does not, but I would call it an open space committee because we have a very active recreation department and recreation commission. So I would just say standing open space committee and they would deal with that. Most municipalities have a standing open space committee.
So you mentioned there's a recreation committee. Why not extend this mandate to like the recreation committee? If it's, I mean, I guess it's different ideas, right? Like that's really you don't want to cross purpose them. But if there's people already doing that work, can we give them another portfolio? Like, hey, again, congratulations, you're a responsible party.
It's two distinct things though, recreation
Yeah.
and protecting open space for nature and for passive recreation and stuff like that. I think almost two different things.
Yeah, they're more like doing events and
Okay.
I remember trying to join them because I was interested in open space and that.
Oh.
But then they were talking about the carnival
It's more
and, you
like-
know, T-ball and all, yeah, it wasn't at all
It wasn't about.
at the time anyway.
So it's
Still like that.
on public land.
Right,
that kind of thing.
no.
Yeah, I agree with Eric, and I think what could happen then is when the open space plan needs to be updated in another 7 years or however long it's gonna be, that those groups would then come together, that we have a group that the open space committee would be actively thinking about, you know, land conservation and prioritizing, you know, protection and all that. And then this other fairly highly functioning rec group, you know, would come to the table as well. And I think that could make up, you know, that sort of temporary committee that comes together just for the purpose of updating that plan. I think that makes sense. And that might be of more interest to some people. That might be part of the reason we've had some trouble getting that idea off the ground, the standing committee.
Well, let me ask as a case study. So we're saying, you know, there's a recommendation about having an open space committee, open space and recs, but recs already covered, it seems. So we're saying, okay, that would be a good idea. We have consensus on this committee. That would be a good idea. How would we, and you're saying, your understanding, it doesn't have to be in the charter, so it can go through some other vote. How would we implement that? What would we do? Would it be designated the chair to speak with the mayor or Eric?
I mean, so the previous two mayors, I made an attempt to get a formal standing committee. The response was that they cannot fill the current committees. It's hard to fill the current committees and we don't need another one to try to fill. Basically, that's what two mayors have said. So, but we have a new mayor, so a third attempt should be made.
And the thing is too, you might be tapping into an interest group that wouldn't be interested in other committees. But boy, you know, preserving open space, you know,
Exactly.
there are a lot of people who are passionate about that. Yes.
I recently learned that in Ashfield, there's a volunteer trails committee group. And they act as the open space committee for Ashfield. So there's an informal open space committee type approach.
And we've had a history in this town of these not formalized, not tree committee.
Like the tree committee.
The clay court tennis committee. And there have been other groups that I'm sure other people can think of at the moment who have been very instrumental. The metal benches downtown was a volunteer group that literally put those things together and installed them. That was not a municipal action. Yes, sir.
One idea that I did have was whether or not an open space committee could actually be like a subcommittee of our group, because I see one problem with having an open space committee that's not in the charter and isn't appointed necessarily, that they wouldn't have any sort of, I don't know if credibility is the right word, but they'd just be a group of citizens who might be well-meaning, but might not have any avenues to put forward any ideas.
Question, is it the agricultural commission, are those all in the charter?
Yes.
And you're saying this committee could be, so it's not in the charter, but I would say that if it's gonna be called a standing committee, it has to be an ordinance in the charter.
what Mary was saying about, maybe using the committee or, and what the previous mayors have said about like getting volunteers for committees, that resonates with me because volunteerism is a hard thing to elicit from folks, and I feel like it's getting harder because people feel pinched in general. When I was union president of my teachers union for 2 years, and I would get a lot of people like, oh, I'm so glad you've got this, that kind of thing. And then they wouldn't show up unless like, if it's a personal favor to you, I'll come. And I'm like, it can't be every single time when we need to do something. And so I do have a fear of making another committee that isn't like this has, with the departmental buy-in, with the city council, person on it, there's responsible parties, just to use my new favorite phrase, who are already here. And that makes me feel more confident that this will be, we'll be able to implement some of this, the intention of the committee. So if there was a new standing committee, separate from this group, if it had somebody who would be responsible for open space, so not to volunteer for Marlo here or some that kind of thing, but again, open space needs to be maintained. Somebody's, who's going to have their hands on whatever gets preserved as open space? Could they be part of that? Could there be people that are already on other committees? Do we draw, what I mean? So I think thinking about it, it's often the same people that do all these things as, I've seen you at many meetings and I'm sure that all of you are on several different kinds of things. Tree committee, I remember actually reading about when I first moved to town and I was so pleased. I'm like, when I retire, I'm going to be on the tree committee. It's all going to be easy. And I'm sure it's very hard work, but it just sounds so wholesome. So that's the only point I wanted to make is just the getting people involved is tough. And so we can tap into places where they're already involved. It makes a lot of sense to me.
I'll give a little history about the tree committee. The tree committee, when I moved to town, that was the first committee I joined. It was the select board.
Oh, wow.
Approved me for being on the committee just before the mayoral changeover. And it was a municipal committee. I don't remember what exactly happened that stopped functioning, but then it became an informal, citizen-driven committee. But it has wonderful collaboration. It takes a lot of action and wonderful collaboration with town departments. So it can happen where, and the same is true of the tennis courts group. They collaborate with the town departments as well. So
Met with them last week. Well, first warm day.
yeah, and then that's.
I was thinking about what Eric was saying and, there's this, I think maybe one of us needs to have a conversation with Jenny to see what she thinks about this. But an idea about maybe an easy first step to getting an open space committee, which we haven't had in, I don't know how many years. You said at least.
Well, no, since I've been here 17 years, the only time it formed was the update of the Space and Recreation
So we haven't.
ad hoc committee.
Okay, so we've never had one during your time. So maybe an idea, and again, I'm not super pushing for this committee, but I would be willing to serve on it if we decided we wanted to do it. Would be, that could be like a intermediate step, so it's not it's not its own entity, but it might be a way for us to start, being more organized around open space within this committee. I'm not sure.
Yes.
Oh, let's maybe piggybacks on this, but I'm just a real fan of volunteer committees that aren't formalized as part of the town. So when you have a committee, Greenfield Tree Committee, I see it all the time. The flexibility of people who are enthusiastic can raise their hand and say, I want to be part of this, and they come and join, they do it. And then something happens in their life and they leave, they move on. And so there's always, and when the committee gets formalized as a city committee, you have to apply, you have to get an approval from the mayor, all of this stuff surrounds it, which makes it difficult. What can I say? It's the enthusiasm of the volunteer just getting together and doing it is somehow lost for me when you become formalized. And even in this group, for example, several times I've mentioned resistance. So, it was very, I was the chair at one point, it was very clear that people were willing to come to a meeting for 90 minutes a month, do nothing in between and not have, and that was it. They weren't going to do anything else. So right now, there seems to be a group of interested people who are active, but it's a struggle. It has been a struggle.
And there,
I was just wondering if there was, I feel like the volunteer committees in town that I've worked with that have been the most successful have had a person at the lead who is, has copious amounts of time or invents it out of whole cloth and is wildly passionate. And I feel like if there was such a person for open space, even if we invited them to come to just have a conversation about what this could look like, I would want to know there was a person that we were sort of passing that baton to and saying, run with it. Otherwise,
You do the community outreach to see who comes up to the top. That's kind of my approach.
fair enough.
before going to Eric, I just want to welcome Jonah for joining us. Good to see you.
Thanks, George. Yep.
And
Another
we're,
enthusiastic open space guy.
we're in the midst of kind of a combined, what items are these? Items number 6 and 7. We're having kind of a broad discussion about those. Eric.
Okay.
I was just gonna say that, I can see the valid points about a volunteer committee and the passion involved with that, of course. But the reason this committee is good because the ordinance we wrote to get the members here make it so that the city is directly involved with everything going on by having staff here, key staff that implement stuff, but mostly in this plan. So if it was written up properly, this ordinance for another standing committee, city standing committee, it could be, one person could be from this committee. So it ties in automatically, like George being on the planning board's automatically tied into this committee. So if it's properly written, you can have the right people on the committee. Does it deal with that volunteerism passion? No, probably still lost a little bit, but this is the nature of it.
Anybody else want to chime in?
So,
Okay.
yeah, I just wanted to say, Jonah, so we're talking, right now, we're talking about the open space committee and what makes sense, whether it could somehow fit as a subcommittee in this group, maybe as a, intermediate step. Whether it makes sense to try to seek, some sort of buy-in from the mayor. Does it need to be added to the charter? It's sort of the perennial question we've been having. Just wondering if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, when we discussed it a bit with the Conway team, and they had it in the draft recommendations as fitting in under SGIC. And my comment to that was I would see that as a option B, or the second choice option, which I would welcome. I think it'd be better than not having it, but it would be better for it to be a freestanding committee, and give it its due weight would be my personal choice. But if this would, I don't know the best way to get it off the ground. The last 2 mayors haven't supported it, so maybe we would see support if we showed it could be useful and active as a subcommittee of SGIC first. I could get on board with that idea.
Just following on with that, maybe that's a way of, going to the mayor in the end of this year or something and saying, hey, we've been doing this. It's been effective. Now we want to take it to the next step. That might be a way of dealing with it.
I'd be
I think-
happy to be a lead, if it's going to be a subcommittee of SGIC. I'd be happy to take the lead on that subcommittee.
Thank you, Jonah.
Person.
He's already looking at land, so.
I agree with everything I'm hearing. I'm a big fan of making it excuse the expression, a hybrid type subcommittee. Because I agree with Nancy's point about volunteers and, the whole charter thing and everything. don't you tell your brother I said this, but, I mean, I would be part of this committee also, because I'm guessing that I'd be requested for a lot of information or requested to attend. Well, we have all the records, we have everything on all municipal properties that are open space and what's there, what can't go there. Eric's got some of that too, or most of it. I didn't volunteer you, but.
Welcome aboard, Marlo. Welcome,
It
welcome
makes the
aboard.
most- it makes the most sense to me, thinking through this whole thing. And I can't speak for Christy Moore, but she's a very big fan of this, improving our open spaces too. Not, not the rec commission, but, I can't speak to her. I can talk to her and say, hey, we're thinking about doing this. What do you think? Because she's pretty passionate about it.
Can I ask what you mean, Marla, by a hybrid
Yeah, thank you.
committee?
Well, it was about all volunteers. I'm a city worker, but I think that hybrid, I would be asked to come to a lot of these subcommittee meetings, so I may as well be on it. As far as me being on the SGIC, that's what I meant by that.
So municipal staff on this volunteer committee.
Yeah, and I'm saying that I would be willing to do that, so. I would rather know I'm coming to a meeting than last minute, don't say, what did you get?
At one point, the tree committee worked that they would invite the tree warden or something to particular meetings that were relevant to that person, and that type of thing.
Yeah, and we try and meet as much as we can when we have things we're gonna talk, in fact, I gotta talk to you at some point too. Potentially bubble up a meeting for you or for the committee,
Okay. I'll be in touch.
just revisiting the whole Hastings Street and all that.
Oh, okay.
It's gonna be posted soon. So we gotta come up with a plan, as I had promised, to involve the tree committee, what we're gonna do and remove all these dead trees on the street.
Marla was talking about Hastings Street, which is going to be getting new sidewalks, and so we're trying to collaborate on that. And I think Marla was shocked when I and John Bottomley, who's also on the tree committee, showed up and we were asking DPW to tag trees to be cut down.
17 of them.
Because,
Norway maples.
well, there are Norway maples and some dead cherries too, some Kwanzaa cherries. Because now's the time, right? When you've
Well,
got,
they're dying and they've ruined the sidewalks that are there, and we're
Yeah.
putting new walks in, so
Yeah.
now's the time to revamp the street
Yeah.
when it comes to street trees and everything else, so.
but I think we've had the relationship in the past where it's the tree committee is always there trying to prevent the removal, but now we have a better relationship and we have more tree planting going on, so it's a little easier to let go of some of those trees that really do need to be taken down.
I think we've formed a good thing the last couple of years, 4 or 5 years,
Yeah.
so it's good.
Norways are invasive, right? They're not, Norway maples, not supposed to be here, yeah.
Right.
They're from Norway.
Yeah, sorry.
Everybody asked me that. You're not alone.
And they weren't a good choice for this area. They're all dying at the same time.
They were a good choice because they love it here.
They were vigorous and.
Yes, I guess.
They look nice.
Way of looking at it.
And they didn't
They were too
intentionally
good.
invade.
Some pretty nice art out there on some of these trees. When you've had to trim them. Didn't mean to get this off
That's okay.
the pace, but that was my thing, so.
So I wanted to understand if we have made a decision at all about what we think we want to recommend around an open space committee.
I would just offer, again, I haven't had a chance to look at their recommendations, which speak to that from
Okay.
the school, right?
They don't go into detail.
No, they just
about
said-
that, No.
No, I just form a standing
Okay.
committee open space.
All right, now I'm got up to date, thank you.
Yep.
Because I think we've had some really good discussion and it would be
Yeah,
nice to
yeah.
say, okay, well, we're gonna try this, or we're gonna go to the mayor, or we're gonna, whatever we think. I don't know if we want to vote on it or how we should proceed, but it'd be nice to have a decision come out of this conversation. Unless we don't think we're ready to make that decision.
Yes, John.
Has anyone spoke with the mayor about it? Do
Not
you
yet.
know what her opinion is about it?
Not yet.
Yeah, I would I would think that would be a good idea, to have that conversation afresh with the new mayor to see and specify the open space committee we're talking about and think of these different approaches to kind of get it rolling as kind of a standing subcommittee of SCIC or, you know.
Okay.
Who would be the best person to approach the mayor? I seem to have failed on 2 previous attempts. So,
I think the SGIC chair should do that.
I was thinking of the chair, and I want to say it, but that's a possibility.
Yeah, unless you want to go together.
We could go together. Yeah.
That'd be good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want me to ask her for a meeting or do you want to do that?
If you could do that, include me, that would be great.
And how about inviting Jonah to join you?
That would be
He
great.
just raised his hand and said he was interested in being, yeah.
And very knowledgeable.
Happy
If
to.
there's any questions,
Yeah,
Jonah
Okay.
can probably answer.
I can set that meeting up.
Great.
And this might be slightly off topic, but when we were talking about the composition of the group and how important it is, I mean, I heard this from Marlo that, you know, he really appreciates being here because it's his chance to know what else is going on in the
Mhm.
city and ways to connect with like Carol or Eric or whoever. And I just feel like I'm very grateful that Amy is here and I wonder why that's not one of the official people on the committee. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I think because of the way the committee membership is written, at the time it was created, I was part of planning, and so
I see, I see.
Eric is the planning. Yeah, there's only that one
Got it.
slot.
And Eric designated that MJ Adams be his designee.
I see,
Yeah,
Right.
got
when
it,
MJ left and I came back.
got it.
But I feel like I enjoy being here because I've worked with all
And
of these
Vivi,
departments and I've
Shio.
known than not, so
Yeah, we're glad to have
I'll
you.
be there.
Thank you
Silent
so much for
cheerleader.
coming. Yeah.
And Kristen,
Hey, Kristen.
In the back.
I wonder too, if, because open space and recreation are so blended together and originally there have been thought about an open space recreation committee to keep, at whatever point, Christie in the loop
Mhm.
as the rec director. So I think that would be, important.
You want me to reach out to her and just touch base with her or just hold for now until we talk with the mayor?
Maybe hold until we get an idea.
Just want to flag the idea to,
Okay. So
do
we have,
you feel like you have delegation? Because I'm hearing no objections from committee members to that representation. Nice.
we have like 20 minutes left, but I'm also conscious that CPC is coming in here
Yeah.
at 5:30, so we should end a bit early.
And we have to figure out our next meeting location and time, right? So
Yes, and
just want to flag it up.
And I know that we've had the issue come up with being in conflict with, you know, typically we meet at 5 o'clock from 5 to 6:30. But that's when CPC sometimes meets.
Yeah, the regular meeting time, they've been having irregular meetings because of their cycle recently, but on kind of most of the times during the year, it's fourth Thursday at 5:30.
It's just a half hour difference from this. Yeah.
So that means that some of us who might want to be at that meeting can never be at that meeting if we continue to be conflicting time-wise. And I know this group has tried to come up with a new time before. I do have 3 options that I got from Matt Conway as to times that this room would be available so we could meet here and, you know, hybrid. So the first is Mondays, the first Monday, either from 4:30 to 6 or 5 to 6:30. Do we want to say yay or nay to each one?
You want to say what the 3 are?
Yes, they all three.
Okay, then, or the 4th Monday, those same times, either starting at 4:30 or starting at 5. Or this time right now, so the 4th Thursday, from 4 to 5:30.
I think this time.
So should we step through and get a show of hands for each?
Well, could I just ask an overriding question? It's an issue of overlapping with the CPC because some people would like to attend that. But it's also an issue of a space that's hybrid
Correct.
ready. And is there any other hybrid ready space? I know the library, if they're open, I was just hearing they're available, but
They're getting
that wouldn't
closer, I
stress them.
think, right?
They're not.
They may be a possibility in the near future, but not now.
So question of ignorance, CDC, is this Community Development Corporation? Is this something else?
Community Preservation Committee.
Community Preservation.
Yes, Community Preservation Act money, what are we gonna spend it on? That's.
Well, the other thing is they don't meet year round.
Mhm.
It's a 4-month process or whatever.
They
they're
meet year round, they do planning.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So one thing we could do, and it also occurred to me that we could wait and see what the library availability is when that becomes fully available.
But that doesn't address the overlap of the two committees.
Correct. So it's two-part, yeah, it's both
Hmm.
that people in this group, some of us at least would like to be present at that other meeting. And then also just availability of a system that we all can operate, which we can't, the Jay-Z is.
Can I ask, just to clarify, I don't know about Hannah as far as 4 o'clock is the regular
Sure.
time. Obviously, for Jonah today, that it worked for most of it, didn't work for you. I don't know if that's something that would be fluid if you had advance notice or.
Yeah, it just needs to be further in advance. So if it's our set meeting time, then I can make it work.
Thank you.
The 4:30 start time for the Monday meetings, is that because there's a conflict that's known in this room at 4? Or is there a reason that?
There's a conflict that's known,
Okay.
yeah.
I know I, for one, work till 5:30 on Mondays. That's.
Okay.
I'm just one of 11.
So how should we proceed? We could also do this, we need to decide where we're gonna meet, when and where we're gonna meet for next time. And we could do the rest of this conversation via email.
Could we have a conference room in our office? Can we do hybrid then?
I wouldn't use that for an open public meeting, because that building's not necessarily, it might be
Oh, that's
any
true,
ADA
yeah.
issues, this building is.
Got it.
That's right, yeah. Good point.
Can I ask you, is Hannah, she's not here to speak for herself, did she indicate an ongoing problem if we were to go to this time, or we don't know?
No, she just said she'd be late today, but then couldn't get here even late in her email.
So next month, the CPC also has a meeting here? Okay.
So how about if we pose this question, which might be easier to answer? How about for the month of April, we meet on the 4th Thursday from 4 to 5:30. Is that doable for everyone?
What day is it?
25th.
Thank you.
Yep, sounds good.
Well, we could revisit once the
Yes.
library gets up and
Yeah.
running, and then we have all kinds of options.
Okay.
The
Well, there's,
third Thursday after the 1 AM city council meeting the night before isn't good for me. Oh, God help us.
well, this group.
Sorry.
No, I know, you're not wrong.
Finding another time other than the
I want to be
Thursday.
productive and not in a
Okay.
state.
And Greta, I wasn't looking at you, that was okay for you, the same time next
Yeah,
month?
I prefer the slightly earlier time, especially as we get into the warmer weather.
Okay, so for this coming month, we'll meet on the 4th Thursday, which is the 20, what did you say?
25th?
25th at 4 o'clock, and I'll send out a note.
Did you want to, was there any more wrapping up of the big item 67, or do you want to move on to announcements?
We can move on to announcements unless anybody else has anything.
Announcements?
Not to revisit the date thing again, but that is during Passover. Is that a problem for anyone?
Nope.
Great.
Thank you. Okay.
Any, Patty, did you have any public comment you wanted to add in here? It's a long time, just wanted to offer that to you.
No, I don't think so. Not at this
Okay.
time.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.
Oh, announcement, please.
Well, we just for those of you who don't know, we just completed a brand new water main put in on Nash's Mill Road that gives us redundancy to our system for the Meadows area. We've got one main that feeds that, goes under the river. If we ever lost it, there's no water out in the Meadows. So something that's been on my bucket list most of my career. But it's done, it's up and running, and it's a good thing.
Awesome.
And they got it done in 4 weeks rather than 7, so.
Whoa,
That's great.
Well, that's the early spring that everybody thinks it's ready for courts and everything else, and now we're cold again, but that is a really important project to add resiliency to our water system. We have enough problems with it, but that's a big improvement for that area out there.
So there should be some
congratulations.
Yes.
public celebration event
Oh, yeah.
of this.
Yeah.
People take this stuff for
Actually, every
granted. I know.
DPW activity that you do, there needs to be.
Well, every time I hear there's a fire out in the Meadows, I'm like,
Oh,
because
geez.
it's got low water pressure.
Right, right.
To begin with, it's like a dead end to the system because it's not looped, now it's looped, so. Pressure should be better. We gotta run some tests, but. It's a good thing.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
I'll mark that one off my bucket.
That doesn't mean you can
Yay.
retire yet. though.
No,
You can do a little while.
I got too many things left. on the bucket.
I bet they get added to.
Yeah, daily.
Yeah, I figure. You get rid of one, you got another
Well,
one.
that's the important piece about being involved here, and we want to implement things, you know. The other side of it is everything costs money, right? So if it intertwines with me, to answer your question a little better, runs up through me if we add something into one of my projects and I'm in front of council asking for funding. So if any of them overlap. No.
Just imagining trying to repair a water main under a river and how that would go. Like, that just seems incredibly logistically challenging.
Just with DEP and EPA, that would be a nightmare to get the permitting.
Yeah, it's just like.
Today's standards.
Well, thank you. That's a great announcement to end on.
Yeah, and oh, by the way, the
Congratulations.
dewatering project is moving and I can give an update next month.
Great.
Down to the wastewater treatment plant.
So I guess we'll be open to a motion to adjourn.
So move.
A second?
Second?
All in favor?
Fourth?
Aye. It's presumed unanimous.
Always a presumption. Hey,
Yeah, right. So we've warmed the room up.
Good night, everybody.
So long,
Thank
folks.
you.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.